Everybody is waking up to this wonderful cold Minnesota morning. And I'm here today to go over some things with travel and let you guys know that it is possible to travel right now with COVID. And what a better time than right now. We're facing our first snowfall of the season here in Minnesota. And so I just want to give you some tips and some things that you can plan for, and also let you know about some good deals that are happening right now. Well, right now there is regulations at every airport regarding COVID, and they are pretty self-explanatory, just like the regulations that are here in the state. You know, Minnesota has a mask mandate. When you get to the airport, they're going to take your temperature. You're going to have to wear a mask in the airport. If you're flying inside the United States, with the exception of Hawaii right now, there are no COVID tests that are required to fly from state to state that I'm aware of. Hawaii does have, they just started their new protocol where if you have a negative COVID test, you don't have to quarantine for 14 days. So when you're flying into the airport of a foreign country, there are more COVID regulations, and those regulations vary depending on country to country. The three countries that I'm going to discuss today are Mexico, Jamaica, and Aruba. And Mexico currently does not have a requirement that you have to have a negative COVID test to be able to enter the country. They do, however, require that you have your temperature taken as you enter the airport. And they also require at the resorts that there is social distancing. The masks need to be worn at the resorts when you're not in the pool, in the ocean, or eating. So those are the restrictions for flying into Mexico at this point. All of the resorts in Mexico have sanitation practices that they have required at the resorts. When you get to the resort, your bags will be sprayed with sanitation application. There will be mats for you to walk on, and those mats will spray your feet and sanitize your shoes, your flip-flops, whatever you're wearing. And then you step off the mat and you stand on a dry mat for a minute or two to kind of let everything do its job. Once you do that as you enter the resort, you do not have to do that again unless you leave the resort to go on an excursion. When you come back from that excursion, then you're required to do that again. Jamaica and Aruba, both when flying into their airports, require that you have a negative COVID test within 72 hours of your final destination. Now, Jamaica, you can get to Jamaica within probably 8 hours. You will have a connecting flight, and so 72 hours from the date of arrival is when you have to have your COVID test completed. It cannot be any more than 72 hours. With Aruba, a lot of times the flights are, you will fly to a connecting airport, and then you will have like an overnight layover, and then you will fly to Aruba the very next day. So in that case, you need to make sure that your COVID test is 72 hours from the date that you arrive in Aruba, not the date that you arrive at the connecting airport. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when you're flying to those places. Aruba has some additional requirements when entering their country. They require you to have Aruba travel insurance. It's specifically insurance for Aruba, and it will help with any medical costs from COVID or anything related to COVID, and that's something that is required in order to enter the country. Jamaica does not have that requirement. However, it is my suggestion that any trip that you plan from now going forward, to make sure that you have travel insurance on that trip. And there are several different options for travel insurance. You can have travel insurance where if you're not able to go on the trip, you can get 50% of that trip fund back in cash, and the other 50% can be used for credits towards another trip. You can have it set up so that it's 100% credit for the trip if you aren't able to make it. And then you also have the option to get back 100% cash minus whatever is non-refundable. Some resorts have non-refundable fees and airlines have non-refundable fees. So travel is possible right now with COVID. There are certainly some restrictions. There are certainly some things that you need to do to be able to travel. However, that being said, you're able to go, as long as you have a passport, you're able to go, to any of the countries that I mentioned and enjoy a 2-week vacation, a 7-day vacation, just to get out of our lovely Minnesota winter. So as I'm talking about these countries and the travel possibilities, if you guys have any questions, make sure and just comment on the live video and I will answer them as they come in. The first country that I'm going to talk about is Mexico. Now, you know that Hurricane Delta just went through Mexico. The resorts were not hit as bad as they were predicting they were going to be. So all of the resorts in Mexico, in Cancun, Los Cabos, they're all up and running. In fact, Los Cabos just had an Oasis hotel that just reopened, newly renovated, and has a lot of excursions right on their property. They've added a zip line, they've added a family pool with slides and everything. And so if you're choosing to go to Los Cabos for vacation with your kids, you don't have to leave the resort if you don't want to. There's plenty of things to do right on the resort. The way that Cancun and Los Cabos are set up, there are certain resorts that are able to open. They have to adhere to Mexico's sanitation standards when it comes to the resorts. So most of the resorts are 4- and 5-star resorts, and they're all inclusive resorts. However, you can get European packages where you only eat, your breakfast is included in the package, and then you find your meal for the evening, go to local restaurants, etc. During this time of COVID, I would suggest that you take advantage of the all-inclusive portion of these trips because you are allowed a variety of different kinds of foods. And some of the resorts do have buffets set up, and the buffets are, you go up and you're served. However, the majority of the resorts will send you the menu availability prior to your trip. And they actually request that you select your menu before you get there. Now, how nice is that? Now, I think that some people are going to say, well, that's all well and good, but there might be one night when we just don't want to eat, or there might be one night where we want to go somewhere else. And that's fine. All of the meals are included in your all-inclusive package. But what the resorts are asking is ahead of time to know what you guys as travelers are going to want to eat. So that's something that you can take advantage of now when booking your trips to Mexico. That is not something that they used to do before COVID. One of the other things that Mexico is requiring of the resorts is they have to be part of a sanitary group in Mexico. And it's kind of like our Department of Health here in Minnesota, or the the overall CDC. They go and they inspect the resorts and they make sure that they're adhering to the sanitation practices. And if they are, then they're allowed a certificate and they're allowed to advertise that they are part of this and that they are taking the sanitation and taking COVID very seriously and making sure that everybody is safe and healthy when they come on vacation. When traveling to Jamaica, Jamaica has been open now to tourists for quite a while, since July. And they have changed their restrictions and their requirements off and on over the last couple of months. The latest restriction and requirement is that if you are flying to Jamaica, you have to have a COVID test, and it can't be an at-home COVID test. It has to be an actual nasal swab or saliva swab from a clinic, and you actually fill out a traveling information form prior to leaving, which will give them a few days to allow you to come to Jamaica. If you fill out your travel form and they are questioning anything that you put on that travel form, they will not let you into Jamaica. So, and you would know, you know that before you even get on the plane. So that's one of the things that they are requiring. And it's really simple. It's just a plain form, basically stating what your health history is for the last 14 days, if you've had any symptoms, if you've had any contact with anybody that has been diagnosed with COVID. And Jamaican Health Department takes that information, and then based on that information, they let you know if you're able to enter the country or not. I have not heard of anybody yet or been told of anybody yet that has been denied entry because of that form. When you get to the airport, you're going to have your COVID results readily available. If for some reason you are not able to get a COVID test before you fly out, in Jamaica and Aruba, they will offer COVID tests right at the airport. There is a fee for that test, and you can have the test done right at the airport. However, should you choose to do that, you will then be required to quarantine for 24 hours at the resort, which means basically you stay in your hotel room. You're not really allowed to use the pool. You're not allowed to use the restaurants. They bring you room service. And then the results are given, they're emailed to you and they're given to the resort as well. So that is an option if for some reason you're not able to get a COVID test. However, I did do some research, and here in Minnesota, there are plenty of COVID testing spots where you can go and get a test on a Sunday and on a Saturday. And most of the flights, when you're dealing with going out of country, most of the flights are going to want to, you're going to get the best price if you leave Monday or Tuesday and come back Wednesday or Thursday. So if you're leaving on a Monday and you have to have that COVID test done, say you're going to Aruba and you have to have that COVID test done on Friday or Saturday, there are places here in Minnesota, especially Minneapolis area and outlying area, that will do the tests on Saturdays and Sundays if need be. So getting back to Jamaica, when you're in Jamaica, you decide, okay, I'm going to Jamaica. I want an all-inclusive, and now what? Jamaica is allowing excursions, but the excursions that they're allowing for tourists are what they call being handled in the corridor. So basically, up and down the coast, along Negril, Ocho Rios, and Montego Bay, which is the northeast side of Jamaica. The reason that they are doing this is to prevent tourists from venturing into more undeveloped parts of the country, and they want to contain the tourists just in case there is COVID, somebody has COVID. They want to make sure and contain it. You can set up your excursions when you purchase your package. There are many excursions to do. If you are a first-time traveler to Jamaica, one of the things that I would suggest is going to Dun Rivers Falls, and they take you by catamaran. You can walk the falls, or you can choose to just go and do nature hike up the side of the falls and watch everybody else walk it. That is one thing that I would definitely suggest if you're a first-time tourist over in Jamaica. The other thing that I would suggest is going to Rick's Cafe and watching cliff diving. And if you are a cliff diving sports person, then you will enjoy going to Rick's. Now, Rick's is from Montego Bay. Rick's is about a 2-hour drive by bus. And when you get there, there is shopping, and Rick's Cafe is also a restaurant and bar, so there'll be food and drink. And then there's also entertainment, and then you're able to cliff dive as many times as you want. Another thing in Jamaica that I would suggest going on is a tour of the banana plantations with the rum factory. There are certain excursions that are available where you can make a whole day of it, and you basically get to see how Jamaica became what they are now, um, how they make the rum. There's a coffee plantation and a banana plantation, and you really get to see the economic portion of Jamaica and um, what other things make them money besides tourism. And then the final excursion that I would suggest when going to Jamaica is to go down the Martha Brae. And it is a guided raft tour down the Martha Brae. It's about a half a day excursion, and it's well worth it. You get to see so much wildlife, and you're able to just enjoy the slowed down pace of Jamaica. When you're in Jamaica, most of the places, most of the resorts, I should say, have more than one pool. You have access to the ocean, and the Jamaican attitude is no worries, no problems. You just enjoy yourself. So if any of you are thinking that's maybe something that you want to do, please don't hesitate to contact me, and we can get something set up for you, get you a package. The RAU resorts right now are offering wonderful, wonderful discounts for family and couples. And then also Sandals Resorts, beaches, and Oasis are all offering wonderful discounts right now as well. So our final country is Aruba. Now, Aruba, I'm not sure if anybody really knows where Aruba is. You don't hear a lot of people saying, oh, I went to Aruba for vacation. Aruba is just on the northern side of Brazil. And to fly there, it does take, you will have 2 connecting flights because it does take more than a day to get there. But once you get there, it will be worth it. Aruba has, over the last couple of years, really started to get into more of the tourist faction of their country. The resorts are smaller and fewer than what you would find in Jamaica or Mexico. However, with that being said, those resorts are also top of the notch, 4 and 5-star resorts. In Aruba, you can go into an actual hotel, all inclusive, everything is provided, or you can find yourself a little villa off in the country, and you provide your own food and your own drink and be off the grid for a while. As I said earlier, when you're flying into Aruba, they do require a special type of travel insurance, and this is in addition to what you would purchase with your package. This is something extra, and it's only for Aruba. So if something were to happen in Aruba, whether it be with COVID or an injury or anything like that, this insurance would cover that. When in Aruba, many of the things that are available for excursions are having to do with the ocean. Deep sea fishing is one thing that I would suggest if you're going to go to Aruba. Another thing that is very fun and very possible in Aruba is taking the catamaran and going scuba diving. They have lots of coral reefs, and you're able to see lots of fun fish and marine life. So those are 2 things that I would suggest when going to Aruba. Also, they have lots of shopping. And there again, with COVID right now, when you go to Aruba or any of these other countries and you want to be out in public, they request, you're required to wear a mask, you're required to social distance. You're basically required to use common sense and make sure that you're not spreading anything or having something spread to you. So now after I've gone over these 3 countries, I'm wondering if someone is saying, I don't even have a passport. And right now, getting a passport is going to take forever. Are there any other options for going somewhere warm? The answer is yes. Hawaii has now just opened up that they will allow tourists in with a negative COVID test. Up until October 15th, you needed to have, if you were traveling to Hawaii and any of the islands, you needed to be quarantined for 14 days. Now they are offering the option to come into their islands with a negative COVID test. So that is something that has just been approved and is just happening now. And Hawaii wants the tourists back. So they are offering some really good deals, especially the Big Island. There are many resorts there that are offering additional food packages with the hotel stay. There are no all-inclusive hotels in Hawaii. A lot of the packages have breakfast included, but then you're on your own for the evening meal. However, with that being said, when you decide you're going to go to Hawaii, a lot of the evening excursions include your evening meal. So if you want to go to a luau, there's a pork roast included with that. If you want to go on a dinner cruise, obviously your dinner is included. So going to Hawaii is really something for people right now that don't have passports and they want to get away. Hawaii is definitely an option. And Hawaii has been pretty stringent about containing COVID, unlike Florida and California and Arizona. So Hawaii has really set themselves up for success going forward with COVID, especially during the peak tourist time, which is now until May. So that is something to keep in mind when you're thinking about, where do I want to go? I want to get out of Minnesota. I don't want to deal with this snow. I just need a break. Hopefully the options that I've given you today will get you to thinking about where you want to go. And if there's anything that I didn't go over that you have questions about, please don't hesitate to shoot me a message, send me an email, give me a call, whatever works for you guys. I will try and do at least one Facebook Live a month, but I will for sure have a video or a live event every Tuesday for about a half an hour to kind of give everybody an update on what's happening in travel. If there's any really good deals out there, if there's anything that needs to be mentioned regarding COVID or countries or hurricanes, weather, whatever the case may be. And if for some reason there are things that I have not mentioned that you want to know more about or you'd like me to go more involved with, let me know. And that might be one of the topics that I choose for a Travel Tip Tuesday. It's been really nice speaking with all of you. I hope you have a great Tuesday, and hopefully we don't get too much snow in the next 7 to 10 days like the forecast is saying. And again, I'm Ellen with Dreamy Destinations by Ellen. My website and contact information is on Facebook, and so please feel free to give me a call or contact me should you have any other travel questions. Thanks again.